Welcome to Carolina News Now. I am Chandler Morgan. If you're watching with us right now, you know what that means. It's Friday. We have made it through the week. We want to know where you're watching from. So if you're watching on Facebook Live right now, drop us a comment on where you're watching from. We're going to be bringing you stories from across the Carolinas. Am I the only person who felt a little off this week? You know, wrapping up a holiday week, it's always hard to get right back into it. Well, we're going to bring you some of those top stories. And one of those big stories across the Carolinas this week that we're going to kick things off with are those wildfires. You probably heard us talking about it a lot this week. The Pilot Mountain Fire has been burning since last Saturday. It's torched over 1,000 acres. So that's where we're going to start first. Firefighters are on the front lines here, but we're learning about new technology that they're using that might help better understand where this fire is going. So we're going to kick our coverage off right now with Ron Lee.
The Forestry Service tells me the Pilot Mountain Fire was started by campers in an area they never should have been in and igniting a fire that should have never been set.
So this progression map over here details the way that the fire moved.
Like a battlefield commander, Hannah Thomason Welch with the Forestry Service goes over the game plan on the history of the Pilot Mountain Fire and what they can do to stop it.
We could experience a longer fire season than we have in several years.
That's due mainly to the dry and windy conditions North Carolina has been experiencing. But new technology might help that fight.
Did use some aerial resources for scouting out the fire and giving us intelligence from the air.
And this is one of the resources she's talking about, the Forestry Service's new drone, but this one you can't pick up on any Black Friday deal. The drone can not only scout out an area and report back in, it comes with a special surprise.
We can drop what they call ping pong balls or dragon eggs.
These dragon eggs are actually incendiary pellets that can be dropped from drone. When they hit the ground, a chemical reaction starts a spark, which ignites a fire. They can be used when trying to start a backfire or clear out brush ahead of the main fire line.
You're using less people, so less people means less injuries.
But it still takes manpower out on the front lines, and this town is very grateful firefighters are there. There's been a near constant stream of baked goods by neighbors showing up at the park.
A lot of packaged goods are what's been donated so far. Lots of water, lots of Gatorade, and a lot of sweets.
Dozens of pallets worth. One of those thankful businesses are the folks over at J.Lo Wineries who had a view of the flames from their own backyard.
Local fire and rescue squad members are our local heroes. They did take care of the fire and kept it under control the whole entire time.
And because of their efforts, firefighters here were able to contain the fire up to 80% so far. I'm Ron Lee for Carolina News Now.
Ron, thanks for that update. If you were watching here with us on Facebook Live, let us know where you're watching from. We just kicked off our coverage here, checking in about those different fires burning across the mountains with our Ron Lee. We want to know where you're watching from. And what we're going to get to next is we've got to talk about that beautiful weather here. This is what it looks like across the Carolinas right now. Things looking good, things looking clear, feeling very warm. But if you know, we have been dealing with a lot of drought conditions lately. Here now with us is a meteorologist to break down how badly we need that rain across the Carolinas.
WBTV meteorologist Al Conklin in Charlotte with a look on the latest drought monitor information that's come in. And the two Carolinas now with parts getting into severe drought, particularly across North Carolina. Now, Charlotte is down about 7 inches of rain for the year, and so much of the metro area there is now in severe drought, and that is a troubling sign here as there isn't a lot of rain in the forecast going forward. Likewise around Florence and Fayetteville. Florence, South Carolina, down about 3 inches of rain year to date. Fayetteville down about 8 inches of rain year to date, and the same for Greensboro over to Raleigh. They are down as well. Much of North Carolina outside of the mountains is below normal in terms of rainfall. We started off very wet early in the year, but it has been extremely dry, particularly during the late summer and fall months. In fact, you go back to Labor Day and only about 10% of the Carolinas were in any kind of drought situation. Now, though, we fast forward to December and fully now most of the states, both North and South Carolina, in some terms of drought. Now, it's not as bad when you get down towards Charleston. You actually had fairly wet weather earlier in the year, but of late, again, it's been dry, and there's still not much drought going down toward Hilton Head and the Beaufort area, or Beaufort rather, Augusta, and over towards Orangeburg. Right now classified as abnormally dry. So when might we get some rain down the road? Doesn't look like much help during the course of the weekend, but by the middle part of next week, you'll notice the timestamp here on our Futurecast. It shows a swath of rain coming in. Keep in mind, these are broad brush, big weather maps here, meaning this is wide-ranging data. When we get down to the fine-tuning data, sometimes it narrows a little bit and you don't get quite as much rain out of these situations, but this is probably our best hope for at least some rain coming the middle part of next week. All right, that's the latest on the drought. Back over to you.
Al, thanks for that update there. And it's no surprise whenever there's a drought, usually that coincides with some sort of burn ban. That rings true as we get closer to Myrtle Beach. We've also been seeing that here in the Charlotte area too. So let's go ahead and get a check-in from Myrtle Beach. Laura Harris is reporting about how different crews there were also helping work to contain some flames happening across the Carolinas, but also about those burn bans that are now in effect.
Horry County initiated a burn ban effective immediately as a result of several recent fires throughout the county. Horry County Fire Rescue teamed up with South Carolina Forestry Commission to contain the Little River fire. Horry County Fire spokesperson Tony Casey says the area was hard to access, but they were able to bulldoze part of it in order to put sprinklers in to help control the fire. Casey says the fire is contained, but will continue to smoke. He says it's rare to have a fire completely stop smoking in an area as dense as these woods in Little River. Peat moss and all the vegetation underground is another reason neighbors in the community are continuing to see smoke. Casey says the fire is not growing in size and it will not jump the line. Meanwhile, Horry County explained that the burn ban is necessary due to the extreme fire danger as a result of the low humidity and dry conditions.
We hope it's over sooner than later also, but understand it's abundance of caution for our neighbors and for our first responders who have to respond to these kind of fires when they get out of hand.
Horry County Fire doesn't know when the burn ban will end. They say they will continue to monitor and contain the fires. Reporting for Carolina News Now, I'm Laura Harris, WMBF, Little River.
Laura, thanks for that update there. I want to ask everybody, if you're watching on Facebook Live, leave us a comment on where you're watching from. We are going to be recapping some more of that weather coming up in just a bit and getting another check about those different fires that are burning across the Carolinas right now. But now we want to switch gears and we want to talk about a story that has really impacted across the country this past week. We saw the latest mass school shooting in the United States. This one was in Michigan. 4 students died, several others hurt there. And that's led a lot of parents, a lot of school districts to encourage families to have conversations with your kids and really tighten gun safety. So that's where we're going to go next. We're going to talk to Hannah Jeffries, who's in Eastern North Carolina. She spoke with law enforcement and mental health experts about those important conversations you can have today.
Both officials and experts alike are offering some advice on how to have those conversations with kids and what to look out for. A school shooting in Michigan left several dead and injured when authorities say a 15-year-old opened fire using a gun his father recently bought. Now, North Carolina law enforcement officials are reminding parents how important it is to lock your guns, advising using tools like a fingerprint safe to store firearms.
There are a number of different methods for securing a firearm in your residence, which is required by the law if there are minors present so they do not have access to a loaded firearm.
Encouraging the public to look and report warning signs, as Michigan authorities later found threatening social media posts.
Anytime a person becomes aware of any information on social media that appears to be threatening or threaten violence, threaten harm to others, students, schools, they need to immediately report that to their local law enforcement agency.
Mental health experts echo that message, asking parents to take control.
I often find parents who have the attitude that, well, that's private. Well, no, it's not really private because it's your child. And so you need to be engaged. You need to know what they're looking at on the internet and what they're participating in social media.
And keep lines of communication open, especially if they notice behavioral changes.
Some things to look out for example, would be increased level of frustration, avoidance, the children trying to isolate themselves.
Those signs could mean it's time to sit down and talk.
Don't give up when they don't talk immediately. Keep trying. Maybe not now, maybe tomorrow morning, but you keep working on it and trying to engage your child.
Ann McFadden wants to remind the public that there are plans in place for active shooter situations at schools. There are student resource officers, and many law enforcement agencies do have active shooter simulators once a year. Reporting for Carolina News Now, I'm Hannah Jeffries, WITN News, Craven County.
Hannah, thanks for that update there. Hey, I've been asking you to leave us comments on where you're watching from. I'm seeing them come in through the Facebook Live feed if that's where you're watching from. So thanks for leaving us those comments. Want to let you know we're going to get a quick check of the weather just after our next story here. Here's actually a live picture of our HD tower cam. This is from the Charlotte area. So let me know if you are watching, whether you're watching from Charlotte or maybe you're watching from somewhere else. Let us know where you're going to be heading if you have any plans tonight or anything of that sort. I hear that things are going to be clear, so we're going to get another check from Rachel Coulter in just a bit, but I heard there are some changes on the way, so you want to stick around and hear what those changes are. All right, our final story here just before we get a last check of weather, we're going to go over to the Wilmington area where we're learning that a trial date has been set in a lawsuit that's against a local school board and a former teacher who's been convicted of committing dozens of sex crimes against students. So WCT's Ann McAdams reports from Wilmington and brings us up to speed here.
This is scheduled to go to trial in September. Attorneys had hoped to settle this case outside of court. That is looking unlikely, though, in large part because the school system's insurance provider says they are only liable for $4 million. With so many plaintiffs, that $4 million doesn't go very far. New Hanover County school officials believe they have far more coverage than that, and they are suing to try to compel the insurance company to commit to a larger sum of money. There are more than a dozen plaintiffs, all former students, suing the school system for allegedly turning a blind eye to Mike Kelly's behavior. Many of them are suffering from ongoing severe psychological issues they blame on Kelly's abuse. They will not accept the current amount and are reluctantly preparing for trial.
It is a big deal. And it's very expensive, and it's really not good for anyone. There will be no joy on either side when we go to trial. It's going to force these kids to relive all of what they've gone through before. The board's not going to like what they're having to hear. Certainly, Markley and Holiday aren't going to like it.
Plaintiff's attorney Joel Ryan is referring to Tim Markley and Rick Holiday, the former superintendent and deputy superintendent who stepped down in the wake of this scandal. The lawsuit was just amended to add a 14th plaintiff, a former student who says Mike Kelly exposed himself more than 100 times in the classroom and made sexual advances on him in a hotel room. For Carolina News Now, I'm WECT's Ann McAdams.
And thanks for that update. All right, as promised, we are going to get a final check of our weather here. Let me know if you have any plans in the comments and where you're watching from. Of course, we're streaming on Facebook Live, so we want to know what you are up to this weekend. It sounds like things are going to be cooperating on the weather side of it. Let's send things over to meteorologist Rachel Coulter.
I'm WBTV meteorologist Rachel Coulter with a quick check on conditions across the Carolinas heading through the rest of your work week and into the weekend. Today, record warm temperatures across much of the area. Very warm, doesn't feel like December out there, but by the time we get towards next week, just looking at the overall pattern, we're going to be a little bit more unsettled at times, and we have some more seasonable temperatures in the forecast. But if you do have some weekend plans, here's what you can anticipate. Certainly staying dry and mostly clear through the rest of our Friday, as temperatures will likely still be in the upper 60s to near 70 degrees for any dinner plans that you may have tonight. Heading into your Saturday morning, temperatures will be pretty mild to start. Of course, we'll start off likely in the 40s, but lift pretty quickly into the 50s. We're going to be well on our way to those low 70s, upper 60s tomorrow afternoon. Even by 5 o'clock, you can see temperatures on your screen here still near 60 degrees in the mountains, upper 60s in the Charlotte area, mid 60s out towards Raleigh along the East Coast, low to upper 60s, just depending on where you are. Staying most mostly, if not completely dry. Of course, this weekend we're going to see a little bit more cloud cover than sunshine. There's technically a frontal boundary meandering across the area that's going to dip off towards the south, allow for some cooler temperatures by Sunday. Morning hours still mild in comparison, very similar to what we had this morning, but it could spark a few showers. That's going to be a possibility. Most of us end up staying dry, but you can see the clouds in a few of those showers, especially out towards the East Coast, even as far west as the Fayetteville area, seeing a few sprinkles on the windshield, wrapping up those dinner plans heading into your Sunday.
And Rachel, we know that we so desperately need that rain. So good to hear that some changes are on the way. All right, that's all we have for you here on Carolina News Now this Friday. We're so glad that you joined us and that you're watching with us. Remember, you can always watch us on our streaming platforms, wherever you might stream your news. That's including Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and we are here with you on Facebook Live. So thanks for watching if that's where you're watching from. All right, we hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Things just got started, so you can head into the weekend being caught up with what's going on the Carolinas. All right, for Carolina News Now, I'm Chandler Morgan. Have a great day.